All right, Isaac Cooper, part two, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How you doing?
Good, mate. Just early morning for you, hey?
Yeah, I was supposed to have a surf this morning, but there was a big storm last night and it blew the wind well off. So I guess, a bit of recovery this morning then.
Nice, nice. Now, listen, you're coming off some big events recently. You're world champs,
Yeah,
world champion. Congratulations on that.
thank you very much. It's pretty awesome. It's very
Yeah,
surreal.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. Hey, it was cool. We got to catch up then. We'll talk about that in a sec. But just this weekend, in Australia had the Premier League, and a lot of people in America have started to see it, started to hear about it, but don't really know what it is. It went this weekend, this Sunday. You guys raced. It was a pretty cool event. It looked like I was
Mm.
sponsoring one of the teams that you swam for the Sprint Revolution. So just give us
Yeah,
some background on what it is exactly.
yeah. So the structure of the program is pretty much there's 2 rounds of racing. Each round has got 15 events.
Mm,
There's a priority on team performance rather than individual performance, as we are normally used to in swimming.
mm,
So it's also back to back racing. Like there's maybe 60 seconds between each race. So each person's doing 4 races. It's a very difficult competition. That you then have a 30-minute period where then they take out the slower teams and put the faster teams together in the second round. And it's then a race for the cash. It's whoever can race the best, who can back up the best, and put together the best team.
wow.
It's a very short paced, action inviting event that I've thoroughly enjoyed being a part of. Um, it's still in its infancy stage, of course, but it's been great to see it grow over the last 12 months. Really, I think it went from just a tiny event to now being live streamed and having, like, I think there were 100 people in the crowds,
Mm.
62 athletes. It's definitely growing, and to get it internationally would be awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
well, they're coming to California in September, from what I've been told. So it'd be cool.
what I like the most about PLS though is it was awesome to see a bunch of swimmers in the who were there racing that I don't normally get to see too often, and these swimmers are often in a developmental phase where
Hmm.
they are not quite on the Australian team, but sort of the state and national area is also a
Mm.
little bit too advanced for them, and they're sort of stuck in this little middle ground of not really knowing what to do. And the PLS just gives these people an opportunity to come in, just race free with their friends, and to have a good time. And it's open to all age groups as well, so you can have kids there and you can have masters there, and just everyone just there enjoying racing and remembering the
Mm.
reason that they started racing in the first place. That's
Yeah.
what I like the most about it.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Well, it seemed like a successful event. Everyone had a lot of fun, and we ended up coming third in the competition, so that's
Yeah, we
cool. And
did.
hopefully this will grow, and a lot more people involved in it now. So yeah, it's fun to see it grow.
Yeah, I definitely think that it has the opportunity to grow, and it has a sellable. There is a saleable event there. It just needs to
Mm.
be given a bit of time to grow, to get a bit of exposure, and to get those good races in, and provide a little bit of entertainment for everyone.
Yeah. Mate, now just going back to Doha on the World Championships, you put your hand up for that one. Obviously, there's 50s at the World Championships, and we're in a fight right now to try and get 50s into the Olympics, which is cool. But yeah, you went out there and swam a bunch of 50s and had incredible results all around, mate. You pretty happy with the experience?
Um, the the world experience, I still haven't really had a bunch of time to reflect on it because on the 50 backstroke was on the last night,
Mm,
and I was crowned world champion, which is crazy to me. But then the next day we flew straight back home. The next night I then landed. I had one night at home and then flew to Melbourne. Then did a training camp while I was away in Melbourne for a week. Came home, dropped my bags off, and then went straight to training that afternoon. And so I'm a very reflective person, and I don't think that I've really had a whole lot of time to reflect on the world championships that much.
mm,
Um, but it was a little bit of a slow start. I didn't tell anybody publicly, but I hurt my back when I like on the flight, where my lower back spasmed up, and I was actually bedridden for like 2 days. I couldn't really move, couldn't walk.
Wow.
And this was right before the 50 butterfly, and I had to miss a couple of sessions. I was working with the doctor and the physio and the massage team to try to get this all sorted, but I didn't really care. Like, I was in a fair bit of pain, but I was like, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm still going to go out there and race, because I just thoroughly enjoy racing. And I doubt that there's ever a situation that I would be in where I wouldn't step up and race. And so I still had this sore back in the 50 fly. I couldn't do any dive work. And so if you look, my start time was pretty bad in the 50 fly, but my swim time was really good. And then the same thing then happened in the 50 freestyle. My start time, I think, was like 0.3 slower than what it was in Fukuoka, but my swim time was just as fast, if not faster. So I take a lot of comfort from that, whereas those two races may not have been the times or the results that I was looking for. I know that my swim speed has gotten faster with this new training that I've been doing. I just need to work on the little things around that, like the tiny 1%ers, in order to get that 50 free and that 50 fly a bit quicker. But then the 50 backstroke being on the last day, my back was starting to feel a bit better. I was able to do some starts and some jumps again. My mobility was coming back. And I was definitely, in that moment right before the 50 backstroke, I was a little bit disappointed, because I would have liked to have swum a bit faster in the previous events. And I hadn't done any backstroke training in a while, like maybe in the last 6 months, I haven't really done backstroke training.
Wow.
And so I just sort of thought, all right, 50 backs coming up. We don't know what you're going to do. We don't know based on previous results at this comp what the results are going to be in this 50 backstroke. So just go out there and have some fun and just race it however you want to race it. And then the results ended up coming because of that. I just had to think about when I was a kid racing, and it was carefree. Like, a 12-year-old doesn't get in the pool and think, finish their stroke, 10 kicks underwater, nail the breakout, touch with the tips of your fingers. Like, they just get out there and race. And that's all that I did in the 50 backstroke. And I had a great time. I thoroughly enjoyed just the race itself. And to then touch and to see world first and world champion, like, it actually is surreal. Like, I can't describe it, because I don't feel any different. I feel like the same person, just with a medal around my neck when I'm coming home. But everything else is the exact same. It's so strange.
Yeah, well, listen, mate, you're a world champion for the rest of your life, which is cool, and that's different, It's just a title that you're going to have. It's like finishing a degree in college or getting a driver's license or something, where it's just kind of yours and they can't take it off you. Maybe they can take the driver's license off you if you do some wrong, but yeah.
They've tried before.
No, I've had this conversation with a few people since Worlds, and I think that a lot of the time we put a lot of effort and energy into the physical preparation, but we don't really think too much about the mental preparation and what the approach should be. So in terms of apart from the injury itself, in terms of the fly and the free, like you were saying, like the processes of like hitting a certain kick count and stroke tempos and lengths and all that sort of stuff, was there a difference in your mental approach for those races to the backstroke, where the backstroke you just kind of switched off a little bit?
Probably. I think I love to work on cues. So right before a race, I'll have maybe 3 or 4 words which have a compound effect for me. So say on a dive, you want to think arms, back legs, toe over knees, knees over toes, sorry, good angle of takeoff, smooth entry. Like, there's a lot of things to think about on a dive, and I choose to just think about 1 or 2 words that have a compound effect, that put all of those things into play just from a tiny cue. And so my cue for a dive is high chest. And so that helps me sort of get up and out, and my feet then follow my chest a little bit better. And I've developed these cues from doing a bunch of racing, from going to places like World Cups, States, Worlds, Olympics. I've done a bunch of international events, and that's where I've developed these cues. And leading into the 50 free, the 50 fly, I had a lot of cues. I had way too many cues where I was just sort of breaking down the race in its entirety. And when you do that, that's to be expected. Like, you're gonna overthink a race, you're gonna get a little bit nervous, but it will take away from the freedom of racing. And so I realized that I was doing that in the 50 fly because I was so worried, more in the 53 relay, in the 53 really, because I really wanted to do a good time. I really wanted to touch that wall as fast as I can.
Right.
And when you want to do that, you're going to overthink it. You think, how can I do that? And you're going to get way too much information in your head, and it's going to throw off your race because you just won't be able to act on instinct. And so I then knew that I was doing that in the 50 freestyle. I knew that I may have messed it up a little bit, and I just thought, all right, just race. Like, these guys here next to you are all really fast swimmers. Like, you're going to have some awesome competition next to you. Just try and beat them. My only 2 cues for the 50 backstroke were straight underwaters and finish the stroke. Like, they were the only 2 things that I was thinking about. And then the rest just sort of fell into place.
Wow.
But the mindset is crucial. Like, at the end of the day, your mind controls everything that your body does. Right. And if you are not in control of your mind, then you can't expect to be in control of your body. So you need to take control of your mind.
And it's not a weakness too, right? Like, overthinking is not a weakness. Overthinking is just a mistake, you know, like, and because you've found that through speed, you need this sense of freedom. You need the ability just to go on instinct. You found that. So overthinking and kind of having too many cues, really, to me, is just a mental error, and we make them. And it's common because we want it so badly. So we think to ourselves, I've got to think this, I've got to think that, when really we should just be saying, okay, release. And so it's just a mistake. It's not a weakness, right?
You need to pick your battles for sure. Like, if you, like, as I said before, a kid isn't going to be getting into a pool and racing and overthinking it. But what has led for me to get to this point that I am now has been by definitely overthinking my training. And I don't actually think it's overthinking. I just think a lot about the sort of training that I'm doing, which I think is good, because then I'm not just doing what I'm told. I'm thinking for myself. I'm holding myself accountable for my training as well. I'm not just going into the pool and doing mindless kilometers or mindless sessions. I know that every time that I go into the pool, I'm thinking about what I do. I know that the session that I'm doing is going to be beneficial. I'm thinking about my recovery. So outside of racing, it's good to think about that sort of stuff, because I see too many people who don't think about it at all. But when you get into the race, that's like a natural racer will win. And that's what I said to my team before PLS as well. I said, whoever races the best at this competition is going to win. I might not have the fastest PB time, or some of these guys might not have the fastest PB time either, but whoever races the best will get on the wall first, and then they will get the points. And so that's the mentality that you should have going into a race, is racing.
Have you got your racing to a point where you can feel the difference between a tenth of a second, let's say? So if you were to go 21.5 in the 50 free as opposed to 21.6, could you feel the difference?
I can feel the difference, but the feeling is the opposite. So if I think that I'm moving really fast, it's probably because I'm really trying. Like, I'm putting as much energy as I can through each catch, and it feels faster, but then it's probably not a good time. And so I often know that if I touch the water, I'm like, oh, that was really hard. Like, that felt fast. It probably wasn't a good swim. And if I go, well, that one felt a little bit easy, it felt like I almost was just sort of like not even trying, I know that that's going to be the best swim, because it was just in a flow state. Like, it was easy for me to do. And that's such a mind game when that's the case, because I haven't had a good 50 backstroke in a very long time, simply because I've been trying so hard. I went a 24.36, and I knew that I could go faster, and I was trying to go faster, but I wasn't going any faster. And then when I stopped trying to go faster and just tried to race the people next to me and just have a bit of fun, I took away from trying to get that time, but then the time came as a result of that. Like it's so interesting to think about, like that mind aspect of it is difficult to wrap your head around, but I enjoy trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah. And look, I appreciate the fact that we're talking about this, because I don't think this gets talked about enough, you know, in terms of how to swim fast. You know, we think that certainly training to swim fast is important, right? And training to do it, but the relaxation of learning how to swim fast as well is just so vitally important. And I think that you're spot on with this stuff. Like this things that you're talking about, it took me years to kind of figure those out on my own, because I didn't have kind of people around me either understanding that or knowing that or passing that on. And a lot of the times I would liken it to a runner right on the track. Like at least in running, you can see their face. So if you were to see a runner grit their teeth, you know they're trying too hard. But when you see someone like Usain Bolt run and his face is relaxed and his cheeks are just flopping up and down, you know that he's completely relaxed in his body. So like we hold a lot of tension in our face. And so I would always tell my athletes, I can't see your face underwater, but if you're gritting your teeth, then you're trying to pull too hard, you know? And that was kind of the way that I kind of used the example of like, relax your face to swim fast.
Yeah. I definitely grit my teeth. Like if you watch me in a 50 backstroke, they have the camera up above. You can just see me. I'm just gripping as hard as I can. My neck gets sore. My jaw gets sore. So that's what I was saying before. I was definitely trying way too hard.
Yeah.
I think it's because like that's why racing is so important. Is because when you're at training, you need to deliver a certain intensity, and delivering that intensity on a regular basis is very, very difficult. And it often requires you to go into a state of mind that not many people would go into that regularly. And if you're going into that state of mind in a training session, you're going to try really hard because you're trying to get everything that you can out of you for that one performance. And the reason that racing is so good is because it's not at all like training, but you need to train to race. Because if you're there gripping and ripping, you're going to swim a bit slower because you're trying too hard.
Right.
You got to be able to separate the type of intensity that racing is and the type of intensity that training is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, you went out there and had some phenomenal swims in 3 different strokes. So let's say, so your 50 fly, what time did you hit there at Worlds?
24-1-2.
23.
23-1. Yeah, that's probably better.
Yeah, 23-1 would definitely get you close. What'd you finish, 5th there?
Yeah, I was 5th.
23-1, and then your 50 free, what'd you go?
I went 21-7-0. I think my fastest one.
What were you there, 4th or 5th?
I think I was 4th. 4th again. No, I was 4th in the 50 fly and 5th in the 50 free. I was the other way around.
Right. Yeah, that was it. And then you win the 50 back. I mean, that's pretty high standard, mate, to finish at least top 5 in 3 different individual 50 swims, man. That's massive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a shame. It really is a shame that the 50s aren't in the Olympics. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever see it in my lifetime. But if the opportunity is ever presented to me, I will definitely be investing my time into those 50s. There's just such a good race. It's seeing who the fastest swimmer is. That's not what I necessarily don't like about the hundreds, or as you start to get into the distance events, I start to be less and less interested in them because we're seeing who the fastest, slowest swimmers are. Like, who doesn't want to just see who the fastest swimmer is? That's why I have been making the decision to go towards the 50 freestyle. Is one day I would love to be the fastest man in the world. And that's a crazy thing to say. And it's a goal that is still probably a little while away. But the title of being the fastest man in the world is what I'm chasing. Like, that's the reason that I swim. And by doing backstroke and by doing butterfly, you're not going to achieve that title. You might be the fastest butterfly or the fastest backstroker. But like, wouldn't you want to be the fastest swimmer in the world?
Yep. Yes, I did want to be that at one stage, and I totally agree with you. I think it's an awesome title. It's the speed event of the track, you know, like everyone wants to be the fastest runner in the world. Why wouldn't you want to be the fastest swimmer in the world? And I would always say to people like, look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you, us going down and coming back, but I know that on the way down, you're going to have a hard time staying with me. So like you kind of had that same mentality. I was lucky enough to talk to the guy that did win the world title in the 50, Bukhov.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch that, or at least what are your thoughts on watching him win that race?
The only thing I've really seen is the footage from your podcast with him. What I love about the way that he swims is that he just does his own thing. Like, what is his stroke rate? Like 53.
Yeah.
Like he's swimming at 100 stroke rate for a 50. Yeah. He's got his head straight up, like what everyone will tell you not to do. And he is the fastest man in the world this year. Like, how crazy is that? He's done like the opposite of what we're told to do, but the results have still come. And like what did he say in the interview as well? He's like, I've just got a job to do. Like, I just have to swim fast.
Yeah.
Like, how awesome is that? Like he's just going there. He's just racing the way that he races and then wins. Like, that is perfect. That is how you should go to like, obviously you want to win. You're not going to win every time, but just going to a competition and racing and just doing your job. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It was phenomenal. I love the part too, where he talked about training, you know, in this war zone, which is horrific. None of us could fathom like having to do that. And he's talking about like swimming in relatively an outdoor pool where there's rockets flying overhead, and he's training, you know, with this war going on around him. Like, to me, I'm like, what on, like that to me, I mean, I don't know what mental toughness is, but that's got to be it right there.
He's turning himself into a warrior. That's for damn sure. And that's what you want. Like, you want to be like, you can go and fight, but it's very, very rare to find a warrior. And he's doing the same thing in the pool. Like, anyone can go and race, but to find an actual racer is very rare. And he's turning himself into one. That's awesome.
Did you consider him a possibility to win that race before it went off?
The 53 is anyone's race. Like, there are so many things that can go wrong. Cam was by far a favorite going in. And had he have done his PB, he would have won. And this Ukrainian guy, like, I'm sure that nobody was expecting him to swim fast at all. I think he dropped like 0.3 from his entry time. That's why I say, if you've got a lane, you've got a chance. And often, say I'm in lane 1 or lane 8 in a final, and people are like, oh, you just made it. Like, you know, but I love those outside lanes because you have a chance. Like, there is always a chance.
Yeah.
And everyone loves an outside smoker. So I was not expecting him to win, but I also wasn't expecting anybody to win. I was hoping that I would win. But it's just whoever gets on the wall first.
You said something earlier where you said you still feel like you're a little distance away from being able to call yourself the fastest swimmer in the world. Like, what's the things where you still think you got to make up some ground in order to be like Olympic champion in a few months?
There's so many areas of improvement. It's so interesting because the more that I've gone in depth into swimming, the more I've realized that there are so many tiny areas that can improve upon that people don't even think about that have such a massive improvement. Like, I know that the difference between touching with the tip of your fingers and touching like that, there's 0.16 difference, just like that.
Wow.
And so in order to win a 50 freestyle is just putting together the best race, and it's putting together the best race that you can do. So I'm still trying to learn how to swim the 50 freestyle well. I've only been on the international stage for a year for the 50 freestyle. But I know that my start time can get a lot better. My start is like a 5.5, 5.6. And you've got some people out there, like Cam was going 5.1, and there's people who go 4.9. And my swim speed is just as fast as theirs, maybe a little bit slower, but it's catching them. So if I can get my start down by 0.3, 0.4, then I'll probably be in the runnings for that title at one day.
Yeah. Oh, it's coming, mate. It's coming. You're getting quick. Well, you're getting consistent, which is the most important thing. You get consistent, then you get better, and it's coming. I've talked a lot in depth of what Cam is doing on a weekly basis. Talk to me about some of the things you're doing now to get fast.
So the structure of my program, it is very personalized. Like if I was to show somebody my program, and they were to try to do it, like they maybe would improve a bit, but it's specifically designed for me. After each competition, I sit down with my coach. I'm like, all right, what things worked from this previous block? What things should we chuck in? What things should we get rid of? And I just, because I'm constantly racing, I'm constantly getting a new block and new feedback. So at the moment, my training consists of a fair bit of resistance training. I'm probably doing 3 to 4 heavy resistance sprints a week. I'm then probably doing 3 technique sessions a week. I'm doing 2 surf sessions a week. I'm doing 4 gym sessions a week. Massage and physio are chucked in there as well. But the main priority for this next block is recovery. I think if you really look into it and look at the high mileage that swimmers do, it is grossly overtraining. Even I'm still grossly overtraining, and I'm trying to work out how to produce the maximum recoverable volume. And that's a difficult number to sort of work out. I think at the moment I'm doing maybe 6 to 9 kilometers a week. But if you were to calculate the volume, because the volume that I'm doing, because the distance that I'm swimming is often at high weight, then the total volume is still quite high.
Right. So you're getting volumes at heavy reps, which is which is costing your body. You know, it's cutting you down. It's causing you to need that recovery, which is it's a high cost. So in terms of the types of resistance you're doing, talking through some of that.
Yeah. So we have got power racks at USC, which we go into 3 times a week. And we'll just chuck like 80 to 100 kilos on and do some 20s and 25 sprint as fast as we can, trying to keep the stroke rate up. Or we'll put on a blue or red finish drag suit as well. And if we're doing 100 training, then we'll have the stroke rate a little bit lower and be swimming a bit further in order to sort of replicate a 100 race a bit better. And if we're doing 50 training, then it'll be a shorter distance, higher stroke rate, and more rest.
So primarily you're using kind of buckets and parachutes for your resistance.
Mostly it's either power racks or drag suits. I did actually reach out to Dextro and would love to work with them. I would love to get some of their towers out to my place and have a go with that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, cool. So the power racks then, what kind of power racks are they? Are they weighted things? Are they?
Power racks and Destros are pretty much the same thing, except one you put on like plates of weight, and the other one you fill it up with water.
Oh, okay. So it's like a bucket then.
Yeah. They're very similar. Pretty much the exact same thing, just different weight.
Yeah. Now, okay, so you're doing your resistance, 3 to 4 times a week. Then within that block, when you're doing resistance work like that, are you doing contrast? So you'll take the resistance off and then go free speed, like from a push or from a dive, or are you separating those completely and just doing resistance here and then free speed workouts separately?
So I treat my swimming very similar to the way that I structured my gym program. If I'm looking to peak in 3 months' time, then I'll work backwards and say, this is the competition 3 months away. Then 4 weeks leading into that is going to be taper. And taper is going to be like, you want to be racing at body weight. So then in that taper period, I'll take out resistance and start to adjust to body weight in order to have the best body weight swim that I can. But in the block leading up to that point, I'm just going to bury myself. I'm going to be putting on as much weight as I can, trying to swim fast at with heavy weights. And then there is progressive overload that comes with that. So say I put on 80 kilos, do a 20, and it's a 10-7. And then the next week, it's a 10-5. Like, it's getting a little bit quicker with the same stroke rate. And then if you can drop that down to then say 9-9, and your stroke rate's up high, it's not dropping, then you chuck on another 10 kilos. And then that's how you progressively overload, and you're just going to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You then take off that weight. You're just going to be sitting higher in the water. You're going to be traveling further per stroke. So that's how I structure it. Sort of block training, working backwards from competition, wanting to be ready to race at body weight.
Yeah. It sounds like you're doing a lot of top end. Are you still touching kind of front end speed and back end speed? You still work those in?
Yeah. I think when you're training specifically for a freestyle, for a 50, there's no real need to think about back end speed.
Right.
Like, you just want to swim fast.
Right.
There are factors like weight or distance that you want to work out with your coach before you start to do that sort of training. But now that I'm starting to do a bit more 100 training, then yes, there is more front end, there's more back end speed. But there's just different factors. Like, because I'm doing all of the sprint training for the 50 freestyle, then I know that my front end speed is good because I've done a bunch of it.
Right.
And if I want to get my back end speed quicker, it's probably the way, like, what you want in the back end speed is just to be removing lactate quick enough so that you can not slow down. And the best way to do that is to just have good aerobic capacity. And I still do aerobic training, but I don't do useless aerobic training. I do the amount of recoverable aerobic training that will be most beneficial to the event that I do. So if I'm doing the 100 backstroke, you're swimming for 53 seconds. I don't need to be swimming a marathon a week in order to be fit for a 53-second race. I just need to be fit enough that I can get rid of the lactic acid in that last little bit. And I get that training from surfing. I've done aerobic training my whole life. I used to do 8K sessions a week when I was like 11, 12, 13, 14. Like, I've done it my whole life, that I can't do it anymore. Like, I just won't get into a pool and do those mindless kilometers because I know that it's just wasting my time. It hurts my mind to do it. And I think it also comes at a detriment to my sprinting. So I then try to think about what's a good way to get aerobic training in that's not having that detrimental result on my performance. And for me, I find that is surfing, because you're still going to be sitting in that aerobic zone. It's quite an athletic thing to do. And so you're becoming a better athlete, not just a better swimmer. And when you become a better athlete, then you can develop becoming a better swimmer. But if you're just a good swimmer and not a good athlete, then you're kind of like stuck in an awkward position.
Man, I love talking to you about this stuff because you're so into it and you're so, you've been through it. And a lot of times we get criticized. I get criticized for not having someone right now who's doing this or whatever it is. And here you are living this. I'm not coaching you, but if I was to coach you, I'd coach you this way. And then I'm so happy to hear you talk like this. And man, you're a world champion. And like, I travel the world. I go all over the place. The world's a big place. For you to be the fastest swimmer in the world, that's phenomenal, mate. Like, you are a world champion. It's crazy to think that you're faster than anyone else on the planet.
It is crazy. It is crazy to think about. Like, when you say it, I get goosebumps. But I just don't really think about it. Like, I get on with my life. I think my philosophy is that life is just, there's so much to life. There's so many aspects to it that make it so beautiful and so complex that if you were to commit all of your time to swimming, it's almost at a detriment to being alive, really. And so then I see myself as just a normal person who's trying to become a better man, who happens to be really good at swimming. And so then everything that I'm trying to do is become a better person, and then also becoming a better swimmer as a result of that. So then I think that accolades don't really, I don't know. I don't really feel them as much. I don't get a gold medal and think, oh, all right, let's go. Like, this is your gold medal. But I get that from becoming a better person every day. But what I think that people, I lost my train of thought.
Let me say this real quick about that is like, I agree with all that. I think that's super important. You've got great perspective on that. But I think ultimately the reason why you're spending time doing this is to be the best at it. And you've climbed that mountain, you know, and that's incredible to think that out of all the people trying to do exactly what you're doing in the world, you're the fastest at it. You're the number one guy in the world at it. And that's a pretty cool accomplishment just in that, aspect of the fact that you're all trying to achieve something and you're the one that hit the top of the mountain on that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I remember my train of thought now. So I was doing a bunch of trails, I used to train specifically for the 100 backstroke. I was doing a ton of kilometers. I was doing a bunch of anaerobic training, and it was just wearing me down. Like, I was constantly thinking about my performance in the pool. I was coming home and I was upset if I didn't swim well, or I was so lethargic that I just couldn't move. Like, there were some days where I'd come home and just sit in the chair and just sit there for an hour just because I was so physically fatigued. And so then the training that I was doing was having a negative effect on my life. Like, it was tearing me down. And I got to a point where I said to Ash, I was like, Ash, I can't do this anymore. Like, I've got to do something different. And then he's like, all right, what do you want to do then? And he sat down with me and we started to work out a program. And he goes, if you want to do this, if you want to start to change a program, that's okay. I'm on board. I'm here to support you. But you need to start holding yourself accountable for your performance in the water every single day at training, as well as you do when you're racing. And you need to also hold yourself accountable for the type of training that you're doing. And so then I started to think about it a bit more. And ever since I made the decision of, I can't do this anymore, I had to put my foot down and say, I can't keep doing this anymore. I have to do something different. And then I've started to wrap my head around it. I've started to understand how to swim faster, how to create a good program, but also how to have that balance of life and swimming. And now that I've worked out that balance, my life is much better. I'm a much happier person. I enjoy going to the pool every day. I enjoy coming home, doing chores around the house, seeing my friends and family and my dog. And the joy that I get from that, I feel bad when I see people who are doing the same stuff that I used to do and are so upset. And that sadness is coming purely from swimming and making them have a sad life. And so that's why I like events like PLS are good, because it gives these swimmers an opportunity to let go. And the reason that I'm glad that the program that I'm doing has reaped the result of world champion, because it's proved to other people that there is another way. It doesn't have to be the same way that you're doing. And you can enjoy yourself while you do that. You don't have to keep on doing things that you don't want to do in order to get a result. You can do things that you want to do and push yourself in those aspects. So long as the intensity is there, then you will keep on improving, and the results can then come from that.
Right. Yeah. Well said, mate. That was awesome the way you put that. I was really
Long
really
training,
proud.
I have to wrap my head around that.
No, it's cool because like a lot of people are kind of making fun of me because they don't really understand the sprint revolution. And if I was to kind of clip something and say that's the sprint revolution, to me, that's it, right? Like, just enjoying the process of being a swimmer and not letting swimming just beat you down and tear you down. Like, that, it doesn't have to be that way. You can be happy. And I'll tell you this, I've seen you a few years ago and I see you now, and you're a completely different human. Like, when you're at the pool, you're happy and you're a better teammate. You're a better competitor. You're just a better person. You're just really enjoying who you are and the position you have in life right now. Like, I can see it like really ooze out of you. So that's that's cool that that's having this effect on you, man.
Yeah. And I've really been thinking about it because there are some people that maybe don't agree with the things that you say or the way that you say it. But the reason that I like a lot of the sprint revolution and the way and things that you say is because I get it. Like, I actually understand where you're coming from. And I understand that you're just trying to make swimming a better place. And you're trying to make people who maybe have talent that isn't being used appreciate that talent and to use it to the best of their ability and to have fun while they're doing it. And maybe we've tried, like, swimming, we've tried to make a change by obeying the rules and by trying to fit in with tradition, but it hasn't worked. It constantly keeps on not working. And so then the only way to make it work is to have a louder voice and to be a little bit controversial. And not everyone's going to like that. There are definitely going to be some haters, but the intent behind it is pure, because all you want is the best for people. It's just them people who don't understand that are the ones that get upset.
Well, I love the fact that your coach, Ash Delaney, kind of put it back on you too, of like, look, if we're going to do this, you've got some responsibility in this. And he kind of forced you to grow up a little bit.
Yeah,
You know,
he did.
before it was just like, do what I say, and I've got all the answers. And now it's like, hang on, now we're in a partnership and we're doing this together and we're going to communicate together. But you've got your part, I'll do my part, and then together we'll get this result. But it's definitely a partnership, and I love that. I love that about you know, the training too. Like, I think too often in swimming as coaches, we think that we've just got to tell the athlete what to do, and they can't ask any questions, and they can't think, and they just have to shut up and do it, type thing, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the old school mentality of how we should coach. It should now be an education for these athletes. So by the time they're 16, 17, they understand nutrition, they understand psychology, they understand physiology, they understand biomechanics. Like, why shouldn't these athletes have a deeper understanding of what they're doing and how they're doing it, you know?
And you're right. I love the fact that Ash was on board with me, and he pushed me and he had faith in me. Like, Ash is not only a great coach, but Ash is a great man. And that's what I love the most about him. And I enjoy going into the pool and seeing him every day. And the one thing that I heard, not from Ash, but from Tim Lane, who was my coach while I was away at Worlds, he said, but one thing that people don't understand is that it's the swimmer's career. Like, the swimmer is the one who wants to be, say, the fastest man in the world. And the coach's career is to guide that person. It's not, the swimmer shouldn't be going to training because he wants to do well for his coach. The coach should be coming to training because he wants this athlete to be able to perform to the best that he can. Like, that's how it should work. That's how the dynamic should work. And I'm blessed that I have a coach who understands that. And I hope that more people start to think about that, start to realize, especially athletes, who start to think, this is my career. If I want to get to this goal, how do I get there? And then holding yourself accountable for that. Because if you take the steps needed to get to that achievement, whatever it may be, you will get there because you've done what needs to be done to get there. I think that so many people just do as they're told, and then they don't really know what they're trying to achieve. Right. And then when they don't achieve what they thought they were going to achieve, they get upset, but they don't think about this part of training that they haven't thought about at all.
Yeah, exactly. I just did a podcast, came out today, with Hunter Armstrong, who you competed against at Worlds. Now, Hunter's similar to you. He said he didn't do much backstroke in the lead up, or he doesn't even do much backstroke in the lead up to some major competitions, but he's going to start to do a little bit more in the lead up to trials. Are you thinking that way as well? You're going to start to do a little bit more back training now?
Yeah. Well, the reason that I wasn't doing a lot of backstroke training was because I was prioritizing the 50 freestyle. And my priority definitely still lies in the 50 freestyle. I want to make the Olympic team for the 50 free. And if I could have the opportunity to stand behind the block of an Olympic 50 freestyle final, then Like that would be a dream come true for me. Like I would love to do that. But I also need to be doing the 100 backstroke for not necessarily because I want to do it, but for my country and for my team. I know that they will need me in relays, and that if I put my head down and really try for it, I could put together a really good 100 backstroke. So I will be doing more 100 backstroke leading into Olympic trials. The 50 and 100 too are so completely different events that you can kind of wing a 50 backstroke, but you can't really wing a 100 backstroke because you need to have that feel of the water for much longer, and the execute. Like you can kind of think more in 100 because there's more. Like if you do something wrong in a 50 freestyle, it'll have a more drastic event, drastic result, but there is more to go wrong the further you go.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of just kind of the breakup of your week where you talked about the training for the 50 free, how then do you incorporate some of that 100 back work into it?
I don't really want to give away all of my secrets. Like the biggest thing that I do for the 100 backstroke training would probably be my surfing, because that's then building my aerobic capacity. And then if I'm building my aerobic capacity, it'll help the rate that I can remove lactate from the speed training that I've already been doing. But I do one session a week, which is 100 backstroke training. So I do 2 sessions a week, which are specifically for the 50 freestyle. And then I do 1 session a week, which is specifically for 100 backstroke. And that's pretty much just resistance training, like putting on a drag suit, doing underwater kicks, and like doing like a full 50 pretty much with a blue finished parachute at 52 stroke rate. And like that's hard. That's really hard. That's like 40 seconds of just straight swimming with the chute. Like I would only maybe do 2 or 3 of those, and then I'd be done.
Nice. I like it. And by the way, like you think honestly anyone's listening to this and saying to themselves, oh, Isaac Cooper does this, so I'm going to go change my training in the next couple of months? Like there's not a coach in the world who's smart enough to do that, by the way. They're not going to look at this and do anything about it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. The thing that I think the opposite. I sort of think I see kids who go, oh, Isaac Cooper's doing this sort of training and it's having this result for him. I want to start swimming less as well. And they just go to the coach and say, oh, I want to do sprint training. Yeah. And they're like, why do you want to do sprint training? It's like, just because I want to swim faster. Even if they're not genetically disposed, whatever the word is. Like, even if they're not genetically blessed at fast, like they're just fit, they go, oh, I want to swim less. Like that's what I liked about what Ash said to me, is that you need to hold yourself accountable for the type of training that you're doing. So then I would go home and I would do research, and I'd look at the Krebs cycle, and I'd look at different aerobic training versus anaerobic training, different exercises in the gym. Like I then gathered all of this information and shuffled through all that information to create the most optimal program for me, and then present it to my coach. You can't just say, I want to do this sort of training and then do it and expect a change. Like there's a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah, there's a ton.
And in terms of coaches out there, there are a lot of hard-headed coaches out there. There are a lot of people that go, what you're doing is wrong. It doesn't work. And I've already proved that that's not the case. There are multiple people around the world who have proved that that's not the case. But I do believe that there are a lot of really good coaches out there, and they outweigh the stubborn ones. There are lots of good coaches who want the best for their athletes. And I'm seeing programs change everywhere. And I'm seeing happier faces show up to training. I'm seeing faster swimming. Like there is definitely a change that is being happened. Whether you like it or not, there is a revolution that is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be at the front of it. And I don't know. I hope that I can present some information to other people as well that will help them enjoy their career more and to get a bit more out of it.
Yeah. Well, number one thing that people need to take away from this is you took ownership of the understanding, the education, the application, all of it. Like you just didn't say, I want to do less and just didn't turn up as much. That was
Yeah.
far from what you did. It was the exact opposite, where you invested your time and energy into figuring out how to be the fastest athlete you could be. And there's a huge difference between doing less and investing time in trying to figure out how to get faster. That's a light years away. Now, I will say this. I did create this, petition where we're trying to get the 50s at the Olympics. And I think it's going to happen in your lifetime, Isaac. I think you'll be surprised. I think it's going to happen. I will say this for the record, for history's sake. I want everybody to know that Isaac Cooper was the first man to sign that petition and send it in and get the ball rolling. So if we do get 50s in the Olympics, I'm going to take it all the way back to you and say you were the first guy to sign it.
Mate, if the 50s show up at the Olympics, I will be entering in as many events as I can. Unfortunately, I think that it's still a long way away. And I do believe that that's quite unfortunate. Like, it's so sad that we have events like PLS, which are proving that it's a great entertainment factor when we're doing 25, 50 meters short course sprints. You got short course in Melbourne, which was ecstatic. The floor was rumbling from the excitement, and they had 50s, they had 4x50s. Everyone was loving it. And then we come to the Olympics, and it's a little bit longer. Like, we still get spectators, but it only happens once every 4 years. So of course you're going to get spectators. Like, you could make the Olympics, like the Olympics are already great, but you could make them better if you were chucking in more entertaining events and potentially getting rid of some less entertaining events.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, there's that aspect of it, but I also think that I think there will be specialists in the next 10 years. I've said this many times. There's going to be specialists who swim just 50s, just 100s, just 200s. I think you're going to get a spectrum of people where they come in and say, no, this is what I'm built for, right? Like there's no chance that David Popovich is swimming the 50 free right now, right? Like he's just not good enough, but he's 100 free, is potentially a winner at the Olympics. And it's crazy to think that a lot of people just put that in the sprint category, but they're two different events, and they're trained by two different types of people, and they're won by two different types of people. So I think that's where women's swimming is going to go too, like Sarah Sostra, right? Like you see her just come in and swim the 50 fly and the 50 free, a powerhouse, and just dominate those events. Once they bring in 50s at the Olympics, I think that's where women's sprinting just goes through the roof. I think they go from 24 flat, 23 high to, I think it drops down to 23 low, as soon as they bring 50s into the Olympics.
You're right. You would get specialists, and you'd get people swimming so much faster because I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in Australia, we're actively told throughout our lives to not do, like, we're told 50 backstroke isn't a real event, 50 butterfly is not a real event, 50 breaststroke is not a real event. And like, that's really sad, really, because I've just come back from World Championships, been crowned world champion, and I'm standing on the podium, and everything I've been told is, oh, you're winning a medal for an event that's not real. Like, it's already taking away the credit of incredible athletes. And the 50s are an event at every other competition. Every single other competition, apart from the one that happens once every 4 years, that one's different, which doesn't make sense. Like, it works everywhere else. Why are you not making it work at the Olympics?
Yeah, exactly. Mate, are they still doing a 2,000 for time to qualify for the Queensland?
I don't know. I haven't been a part of because that's part of the junior QAS development, and I have done that 2K time trial 2 or 3 times before, and it got to a point where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I just can't do it. I think I got down to a pretty decent pace at one point. I was holding 112 pace for 2K, which is good for me. It's really good, but I don't think that they're still doing it actually.
No, I think they are still doing it, actually.
Oh, they are? Oh, really? No. Oh, well, that's unlucky.
Yeah. You just said I got down to a 112 pace for me, which is good. Like, it meant nothing. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's I don't really know what it is. I've done like lactate testing where they try to work out what your A1, A2, A3 is, and that's the whole thing about doing the 2K time trials, because then they're trying to find out what your A1, A2, A3 is. But that's never mattered to me ever in my life. Like I've never gotten the results from that and been like, oh, okay, my A1 is 112.
Yeah.
Like, it has never translated to anything ever. And so
Anything ever.
like if someone presented the data to me and was like, here, you need to do this, this, and this, and could prove to me that it was going to be beneficial, maybe I would do it. But we're just being told to do it and then not getting any data back. I'm like, well, then what's the point of doing it? You're just doing what you're told then. And I'm not going to do that. I'll accept advice if it's not presented ignorantly.
You're just justifying someone's job. That's all you're doing. So.
Yeah.
That's it. Cool, mate. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. It's been awesome to catch up again. And look, we'll be following you in the lead up to trials. What do you got coming up? Any big events before trials?
We got New South Wales States, I think, not this weekend, next weekend, and nationals in like a month or so, but nothing that I'll be tapering for, nothing that I will be taking it all too seriously either. The big race is going to be at Olympic trials in what, 3 months time, two and a half, 3 months time. Like that's going to be the showdown. And that's what I'm going to be training for.
Good stuff, mate. Well, listen, stay healthy. Good luck with the training. I know you're going to put in a lot of hard work between now and then. So rooting for you, man. Good luck. Okay.
Thank you very much, Brett.
Cheers, mate. Bye.